Welcome to another in the series Curating Culture. I am Georgette McGlashan Miller, Research Fellow at the African Caribbean Institute of Jamaica, Jamaica Member Bank. As generative artificial intelligence, known as AI, becomes more accessible and widespread, Jamaica's cultural agencies and communities stand at a digital crossroad. One path leads to meaningful progress, where institutions like the ACIJ JMB embrace AI tools to fast track the documentation and preservation of our national heritage. The other follows a well worn but stagnant route, risking further marginalizations in the global digital narrative. This presentation highlights how ACIJ JMB is already leveraging digital technologies and outlines plans to deepen this engagement in the future. Our guest today, Mr. O'Neill Passley, under the theme Digitize or Disappear, Embracing AI for Jamaica's Cultural Future, will share with us on how this can be done. Mr. Passley is an audiovisual technician at the ACIJ JMB, a division of the Institute of Jamaica. With a strong background in multimedia production and digital archiving, Mr. Passley plays a key role in the documentation, preservation, and dissemination of Jamaica's rich cultural heritage. He is the developer of ACIJ Connect, a UX-based digital asset management system designed to enhance the access to the Institute's audiovisual collection and historical records. His expertise supports the preservation of oral histories and cultural memory through innovative digital solutions. He also leads internal training on metadata, digital photo management, and the use of archival tools. His commitment to cultural preservation through technology continues to make Jamaica's heritage more accessible to the public and researchers alike. Please help me welcome Mr. O'Neill Passley to Curating Culture.
Thank you, Georgette.
Go ahead, Mr. Passley, straight into the presentation.
All right. Thank you again. The first time in this at this side of the camera, I'm trying to do what I always tell persons: don't be nervous. This topic is very dear to me because I believe it. It says digitize or disappear. So I'm going to start by defining what digitization is, because at ACIJ, that's one of the things. In my job capacity as audiovisual technician at ACIJ, JMB, I am tasked with digitizing a lot of the analog material that we have. And these analog materials stretch decades from in the 70s.
Yes, before we were born.
Before we were born.
Yes.
Right. And says with great responsibility that I take this responsibility, I take it very dearly, right? What is digitization? I'm going to come up on the screen. Digitization is converting from analog into digital form or format. So as I have here on the screen, for example, you have a photo album. This is for the older ones of us. Nowadays, persons nowadays, when it's a photo album, they're thinking about something on the phone. Traditional photo album, you can use a scanner or different devices like that. And the formats, it can be in different formats, JPEG or PNG or TIFF or others. But the most popular that we're familiar with is JPEG. And we can save it on what you see there is a flash drive. And it can be other media. At ACIJ, we digitize a lot of audio cassettes and audio tapes. So it's the same thing, converting from the audio tape into one of these formats. The main format that we use in this case is WAV, and we save onto well, we don't really save on a flash drive, we actually save on hard drives, right? These are some, and this is why I say I really take this responsibility dearly, because as you notice, the highlighted down at the bottom right-hand side, you can see that's a tape deck. You know, that is what persons used to use to record. And this is actually one era later. Before that, we had reel-to-reel tapes. And these were what we used to have. These are reel tapes, or some people call them open reel tapes. And so, as I said, these are cassettes, but all the the material that we have in our collection can actually be stored on hard drives, on just a few hard drives. And I'm talking about all the material that we've digitized from the 70s, all the material that we've recorded from the 70s, all the material can actually be stored on a few hard drives.
A
So
few
already
hard
was the
drives,
advantage of digitization
which is to compact and reduce space
and reduce
storage.
space. So I have a list here of different advantages, and there are more than this. So accessibility of data is one. Speed and ease of access. So instead of wanting to find a tape on about how burial rites in the 70s or the 80s, instead of me having to search for the physical tape, I can actually bring it up because it's digitized, and I can actually share it with the researchers in the department. Operational efficiency, they're easier to manage. So right now there's actually a lifespan on the different audio, the analog material that we have. When it's digital, you don't really have a lifespan. Once you save it properly and once you protect the media on which they're saved, you can have them forever, pretty much. There isn't a lifespan on the digital. Saving of space, we utilize less space. Right now we have what is called a tape room at the ACIJ where our archive is. And the tape room, we've been having to store other things on other sections. Just 5 hard drives or a few hard drives, you don't need a lot of space. Ease of sharing, I touched on this before. If persons want, I know persons come to us from time to time to request material about different things that they're researching. A lot of researchers come to us. Some students, yes, but mainly researchers. Instead of me having to create another copy of a audio cassette or audio tape, I can just copy it, and send it to the person via the internet. And we've done that. And ease of distribution, similarly, and income generation opportunities. We're able to, if we so choose to sell some of this material, sell the rights to use the material, because we have the rights to the material that we have here. All right. So, but in preparing for this presentation, I had to bring up some other terms, because sometimes digitization is confused with digitalization. And sometimes digitalization is confused with digital transition. Digitization is what I just described. Digitalization, though, is when you convert different processes. So digitization deals with the actual material, right? The actual media. Digitalization deals with processes. So as I have here on the screen, digitalization includes automating workflows and enhancing the efficiency of services without fundamentally changing the processes. And some of the examples that we see here are online or contact forms. So instead of having to have a paper contact form, you have an online
Like a
contact form.
Google Forms.
Like a Google form.
Okay.
Using electronic signatures. Recently we had an animation workshop, and we had 19 children who partnered with the Junior Center, and we had the certificates, went ahead having the certificates ready to distribute. But that was a very busy period and the director wasn't available. If we had a system whereby he had a digital signature and he could ask his secretary to, sign them digitally.
Yeah.
So that's one other way how we can use digitalization. Speaking about the process, e-commerce is another method. Instead of persons having to come to us with a cash or with a debit card, they can pay via the internet. Creating a website, of course, instead of persons wanting to find out what about ACIJ, thank God we have a website. And digital marketing. So there are a lot of them. So digitalization now, as I said, deals with the processes. And it's important because if you didn't have a physical form, it's a physical form that you digitize in order to have a digitalization process.
Right.
So you see the correlation. All of this now flows into something called, as we said before, digital transformation. Because at the end of the day, with all of these processes digitizing your data, digitalizing, having digital processes, we're moving towards a digital transformed organization. So these steps, these are stages that actually outline how we get to digitalization. And I'm gonna, looking at it, it almost looks like a trial and error. For example, it starts out with, you know, different. What is the team, the team thinking about? It starts with a kind of trial and error until it transitions into a formalized group. That person says, "Hold on, this can work, man." All right, let me give a practical example.
Yes.
In our, I'm an AV, I'm the audiovisual technician, as I said before. You're a researcher, and I know our producer, who is technician today, you know, she's another researcher. In preparing certain documents and certain documentation, we actually go back and forth using different forms. For example, a Google Documents,
Yeah.
Google Docs documents. So these are things that we do among ourselves, but we're moving towards a digital transformation environment is when these things are now formalized. So we have documentation and say, okay, if we're going to use the forms, we use Google Form, we use Google Docs and not some other documentation. So things are now put into proper documentation. So it's more formal. And as I said before, the end product is digital transformation. Now, on this slide, just giving a definition, digital transformation is the integration of digital technology into all areas of an organization, fundamentally changing how you operate and deliver value to customers. And you know, we have internal customers and external customers.
Right.
It's also a cultural change. So it's not getting the form, no, getting the paper form and printing off this and having, can't do anything unless we have a paper form. Not going back into that is ensuring that everybody, hey, use the digital form, use the thing that we have on our intranet. So it's now a culture. So the last part I have down here is TIU, because sometimes we're dealing with, we're public servants, and I know other persons who are listening know yeah, information is important. So you don't want to have a system that's going to break in, before things stabilize. Like a theme in Silicon Valley right now is move fast and break things.
Wow.
Right? We don't want that here, because when things are broken, we can replace our audio tapes, we can replace, yeah, sensitive data, and that's why I have this reference down here, TIU, Transformation Implementation Unit. It's actually,
Okay.
there's something called a change playbook that was actually launched yesterday. You know, I was watching
Wow.
the press conference yesterday. The TIU, they have been in operation from 2017. And what they did with managed change, they did with managed change in organizations. So even though I'm saying, yes, it will bring a cultural shift, and once you utilize material like this, like a change management playbook, you'll be able to navigate the change without breaking things, as they say
Or
in
breaking
Silicon
less
Valley, or
things.
breaking listings. So this is their website, and you can go and you can actually download the playbook. And it's not, even though it's made for public sector organizations, it can be used for private organizations as well, or community groups and so on. Now, I can't leave this point about change unless I bring up this other thing about the different industrial revolutions. Because the reason why, one of the reasons why we have to change is because the world changes. Right now, it is said that we're in the fourth industrial revolution. The first one was in the 1700s when the steam engine was what came about, and the second industrial revolution was when electricity was created, and that brought about a whole new phase of industry. But you look at Jamaica's flag down there, so we got our independence in 1962. So you realize that the first industrial revolution had finished, and the second one almost finished before we got our independence. So automatically you realize that we're in a global framework, we're a bit behind. And
Technically.
we're a bit behind.
Technically.
Technically, we're behind. I mean, we're there when it started out.
We weren't independent when you're finished.
Yes. So, and I'm not saying we're behind as if we couldn't catch up. We never did catch up because to a great extent we've used. I mean, we have electricity in Jamaica, but you find that the bigger nations, the more developed nations, the older nations, they're actually ahead of us. And let me give you an example of why I bring up this point, and I soon touch on AI. When most of our cartoons growing up, most of the cartoons growing up, I grew up in the 80s. I didn't see, whenever you saw a black character, it was either a maid or probably somebody who they say was a caveman, and they weren't the smart ones. The white people were the smart ones. I didn't even see any Chinese on TV.
Wow.
Whenever you saw Indians, the Indians were the people who were trying to,
Indian and cowboys.
yeah, Indians and cowboys. The cowboys were the heroes,
Yeah.
and the Indians were the bad guys. It's until we realize, when we get older, we realize, so, oh, hold on, what these guys stole the Indians' land.
Yeah.
Sort of
And
thing.
it's a matter of the tale of the hunter and who's telling the story.
The tale of the hunter.
And that's why I wanted to interject to say that it's not that some of these things, these industrial changes weren't in Jamaica, but whose hands were it in? Because
they
the
in?
plantation did have automation and industry on it, but who did it belong to and who
Yes.
was operating it, as well as whose side of the story is told about the inventions, creations, or innovations that enslaved people might have contributed to that they didn't get any credit for.
Yeah, quite right. But now we're looking now mostly on Jamaica versus
Right,
the
the
world.
growth and where we're at.
And I make that point to show, and you'll see why I bring up that point. No, the third industrial revolution is actually computing. And Jamaica was, right into that. We went through that in the 1990s. And now it is said that we're in the fourth industrial revolution. The issue now is that the pace of change, if you look at the gaps in between, they have gotten shorter and shorter. So you have the first, between the first and the second, 1700s to 1800s,
Yeah,
100 years.
almost a century.
Yeah. When you look at 1800s to 1990s, and 1990s to now, is a shorter period.
Yes.
You find that things are, innovation and
Going
technology
fast.
is moving at a faster rate.
To break things.
So if we don't jump onto the ship or onto the cart or onto the car quickly, we'll be further behind. Further behind. And that is one of the things, that is why it's urgent that we take hold of, get knowledgeable about what we're about, what the world is about, get onto the digitization, get onto the digitalization, and get onto digital transformation. Because what I just is some of the examples I shared before about digitalization, about having forms, electronic forms, and so on. Those are actually in the third industrial revolution.
Yes.
And there are organizations, government organizations, other organizations, you go there, you can't sign a form in order to apply to somewhere. I mean, you can't sign an online form, you have to sign a physical form.
Well, I mean, some of them you can't even sign in with a tap. You have
Yeah.
to write a physical book. Accounting is still being done in those big dusty books.
You go to the police station, even though they have their
Yeah, to
the
take
electronic,
statements.
you see a big old book.
Yeah.
Right, still.
And at the clinic, well, I mean, the hospitals are a little further ahead, where you get to register and somebody type you in. Yeah.
So that is the point where we're actually operating. We're not even operating fully in
the
terms
third.
of what is required of the third industrial revolution.
Understand.
And yet the world is operating at the fourth industrial revolution. So you see, as I said before, if we don't get our act together quickly, and that is why the theme, I looked at the theme and I was like, should I change it? Disappear, that sounds kind of radical. But when I look at the reality of how things are now, I mean,
And
make it stay.
the pace at which things are moving so fast.
Because if and I'll get to it later, because so much more data is being generated, so many more things are on the internet, so much more information is out there. If we're agreeing, if we're a drop in the buckets in an ocean, I mean, we're technically we're technically not there. You understand? We have in effect disappeared. Um, so jumping onto artificial intelligence, because when I showed the fourth industrial revolution, even though artificial intelligence is on this list, it's actually what's driving the fourth industrial revolution. So it's important to understand what artificial intelligence is. And I have down here, artificial intelligence is a simulation of human intelligence by software coded, right? Software. And down here I have refers to the ability of computer system to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as learning, problem solving, and decision making. The thing is that AI is not new, nothing new. We've been using AI systems a long time, for a long time now. It's a long time now. I get a text message on my phone, and the phone is
Right.
able to read
And
out
like
what it is.
even autocorrect when you're typing on Word
Autocorrect.
and stuff like that.
So AI is
Voicemail on phones. A lot of people don't realize that those things were
yeah.
AI.
I mean, even on Google search,
Right.
there's a button on Google's thing called I'm feeling lucky or something like that.
Yes,
You click on
yes.
it and Google actually, give you information of what you might need. For a long time, I used to just click on Google News and I'll get all the news feeds that relate to the interest that I have without having to search the individual websites.
Even like when you would call and leave a voice message on a phone, and the thing would come in and say, Mr. Passley is not here. Please leave a message at the tone. But a lot of people didn't consider that.
That is AI.
Yeah.
So indeed it is AI, but what we're looking at now and what all the buzz is, even though we call it AI, is actually generative
Generative
AI.
AI.
And generative AI, the keyword of it is generating,
Generative.
to making things. And it's so the point that I made before about more information is being put on the internet is that with the advent of generative AI, with the popularity of generative AI, OpenAI went live in about 2022, I think, November. And since OpenAI put out their ChatGPT, other big industry players,
Created.
I mean, they had to jump online.
They had to be digitally transformed.
They had to transform.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, one of the founders, I think it's Sergey Brin, one of the founders of Google, he actually came back to Google
Wow.
in order to say, guys, what's happening? Right? He's actually coding now again at Google. It's almost as if Google
Yeah.
start over.
Wow.
If you look at the search engine, Google search engine, you notice it's different.
Very invasive. You can't
Right?
even type your own email in peace.
Yes, because and most of it is being driven by commerce. Because just imagine if everybody went onto ChatGPT, for example, who would do the Google search again?
Right.
Google makes all its majority of its money through search,
Search as a search engine. Yeah.
yeah, and AdSense and so on. So they had to jump in online. Other persons, other big
Yeah.
industry players had to jump on. What you find out is that because generative AI is so popular now, we're having a flurry of information on
Yes,
the internet, a
and
lot
you're
more.
forced to compete and refine the information
Yes.
that you get, which is something to talk about. The
And-
quality of the information and all of that.
And I'll touch on that because, and this is a graphic of last year's the top 50 most used AI tools, and this is the top 50, by the way. This is not an
Top
exhaustive
50.
list. It's not an exhaustive list. Today I actually had fun with character AI. Character AI went on it and saw it can build AI characters on it.
Oh, so like illustrations.
No, like
No?
you can do illustrations, but I actually saw Elon Musk at the bottom. So I click on Elon Musk and I was chatting with Elon Musk.
Wow.
Right. And if you notice, this is number 3. Because I was curious, I said, how
Yeah.
come this thing is on number 3 on this list? And I know so many others.
Check that out.
So it's a lot more information.
Yeah.
It's a lot more data. And that is why digitize or disappear is so key, because AI, with generative AI, what's happening is that it is actually said that of all the information that's on the internet now, 57% of all the information is actually AI generated. And
Wow.
this was a research done by AWS, and
And when we say AI generated, it doesn't reference anything. This is new, fresh information,
well,
not
some
old
of it,
information taken and represented.
no, some of it is translated data,
All right.
and but most of it is, as the thing came up a while ago. I type something in there and say, what is such and such, do this for me, create this for me, and it
Okay.
creates it.
So it's in a form that it has never existed before.
Never existed before,
Okay.
right? And this is concerning 57%. As a matter of fact, the statistics said that by this year it would be 97%. Right? So if it was 57% last year, and by this year it's 97%, we actually see that in going into the future, most of the information will be AI generated on the internet. So you do a Google search, you really have to know how to search now, because you're gonna have to research the data that you just researched, you just
That
found.
is where I'm coming in.
The thing now is that generative AI isn't going anywhere. It's here to stay. So the question is, how do we use it?
Right.
Because we have to use it. We can't be like some persons. Some persons are still afraid of computers. And as we just saw the graphic, we passed the third industrial revolution already. Some persons don't even want to have smartphones. Some people,
For reasons.
some agencies don't even have a website, right? Um, it is here to stay, so we have to use it to our benefit. So where does that lead us now? Number one is education. We need to educate. We need
Yes.
to educate ourselves.
Educate people about the generative AI.
Yes, and organizations need to get the information. Like, I'm not an expert on AI. I read it up, I watch it. I'm a student of technology, so I know about it. But to get in there and start coding some AI codes, and a matter of fact, the tools that are there now, it allows me to do it. Because for a small subscription, I can have a AI, what you call a AI agent, a AI agent that can automate almost everything that I do on a day-to-day basis for a small fee.
So when we talk about coding, the word coding is being thrown about for the past couple of years. Not everybody understands what coding is and what is the purpose of coding.
Well, coding is pretty much writing computer software or algorithm. Algorithm is just a set of rules to give a computer. So why I change it from computer software is that there are services that I can go on and give some instruction within a platform. I don't know if you remember when in the early days of Facebook, Facebook used to have a lot of games.
Yes, like Farmville.
Like Farmville was the most popular one.
Yes.
So Farmville was code put onto Facebook. It's not that you wrote a standalone software.
Okay.
You understand? But at the basis of it is writing algorithm computer instructions to perform some task.
Okay.
We just mentioned Farmville. It can be used in one of the AI agents that's on there now, like N2 N8N. You can Google that and look N8N. You can actually go on it and create an AI agent. Tell it to whenever phone calls come, what to do with the phone calls.
Okay.
When customers come on my website, what do they, you understand, interact with them directly.
And we see these on our banking platforms. When we go
Yes.
on and you have ask me for help.
Like a chatbot.
Right, a chatbot.
So that in effect, that is what coding is. Coding is still very important, because there are things in Jamaica, for example, we use a lot of software that's developed by other by 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 other nations, other
Other
countries.
nations, yeah.
Yeah. Um, things that are unique to us. We need to have the people, and we do have them, you know.
Yeah.
The people to write the software to speak our language, to
That
speak
will
to
be
our
culturally
situation,
specific and
culturally
yeah,
specific.
so people can identify with it. Not just language, but cultural situations and
Yes.
nuances should be inside of those.
And so coding is important. That's why I said the first thing, how do we fix it, is knowledge. It's knowledge based. I'm gonna show up a graphic of, if our producer can show it, our technician for today. This is a software that I developed called what's the name of it again?
ACIJ Connect.
ACIJ Connect. Right? ACIJ Connect. Why I mention information knowledge is because when I came here 3 years ago, and I had of course you come there was a AV technician before, and they did what they had to do, and they left. It was my time now. But whenever persons came, the first thing that prompted me to develop was this asset management system. Was I used to dread when persons come looking for poster boards. So, for example, we have exhibitions. For those who don't know, we have exhibitions from time to time, and we develop poster boards. Now, somebody who wants to search about something about Marcus Garvey, for example,
Right.
I used to have a climb up, find the poster board. I don't know if it exists, I hear what they want, search for it, lift up all these posters, over 300 we have.
Wow.
And then I said, no
At
man,
that time.
at the time, because we've added since, thank you. And I said, no man, this is too much. I have to put together something to make my work easier. And I didn't get a new computer. I used a pretty old computer. I wanted to get a picture of it and show you the spec, but it's a very old computer. But it was capable enough to do
You got the
to
work done.
to get the work done. So I started to develop ACIJ Connect a month after I came here, and it has become one of our most used tools, electronic tools
Yes.
in the office,
Especially among the researchers. To
especially among
find
the researchers.
information.
So this is an interface of it, for example. So, and I've since expanded it to have all the audio tapes. So if I'm doing a search on audio, Olive Lewin, for example, all I have to do is go on it, or any researcher, by the way, go on it, type, and you find the resource.
Right.
So,
And this is internally.
and it's internal to ACIJ. So this was created. Why? Because I looked online and I couldn't find anything that did what I wanted it to do.
Okay.
But I had the knowledge to do it, to build it. So this is why I said the first step is knowledge. We need
knowledge.
we need to get our people educated about the technology. Get more persons coding, get more persons understanding what AI
So
is
this
and
has
how it works.
implications for the education system as well, because so far all the coding I've heard about, it's at some schools in the minority. You have to pay for it outside of traditional education. It's in summer camps. It's not on the regular curriculum.
Well, it's there in CXC introduces students to coding, IT.
And I was saying at some schools,
Okay, yeah, because everybody do it, but
because the
some
infrastructure to support that would have to be there.
Yes.
Not every school have a computer lab. I mean, even based on the COVID-19 pandemic, most students would have to get some kind of electronic device, computer, tablet, or phone. But you find that the schools that have a computer lab and have these equipment manage better with these kind of courses. Some schools don't have no IT or no
and you're right.
computer. Yeah.
And you're right,
And it's
because
at a certain level as well.
because I didn't start using a computer. I could even turn on a computer until I left high school. I did
Right?
it at a community college.
Exactly. And
so-
you'd have to go and pay for that extra.
Yeah, man,
Is
I had
what
to do
I'm
it.
saying.
Yes.
Right.
So
And even then you were not learning to code. You were just learning about computers.
just how to, I mean, literally I couldn't turn it on. Worse, I couldn't turn it off.
Okay.
Because I had to shut down programs. The more I click it, the more things
Is
pop
the
up.
MS-DOS machine you were on?
No, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't so long.
Okay.
But I see it as a national emergency, to be honest. That we get that as much as we need to have numeracy and literacy parts, we need to have our people understand these things.
And
because
computer literate.
if at the rates at which things are moving, as a nation, we'll be further behind if we don't get on the ball.
Are these things you can use a smartphone to do?
Yes,
All
because
right, good.
I've
Just checking because most people have smartphones.
it's, as I said, digital transformation. We need a digital transformed nation
Need a digital culture.
because in fact, we're generating data in about what kind of data are we using. We're more consumers. We're not creators
Right.
of this information of AI. We consume AI. So we go on chat GPT the and we ask it questions, right? And it gives us something. We say, okay, thank you, and go on about our business. But last year there was a stir among the AI community because this company, ChatGPT, used, I don't remember the exact figure, but it's hundreds of millions of dollars to develop OpenAI, sorry, that's the parent company of ChatGPT. They spent a long time and they spent almost $500 billion developing ChatGPT. Last year, a company from China came out and said, hey, it's called DeepSeek. They
Yeah.
came out and said, hey, we've developed something that's better than ChatGPT for only $10 million.
Wow.
A lot of stocks fell.
Yeah.
A lot of stocks
So
fell. And
competition will benefit the consumer or,
so the reason why I mention that is just like computers, for example, before only certain people had computers, could afford
right,
computers
right.
until the technology got more advanced. What we're finding now is that nations like Jamaica have access to open source AI technology. As a matter of fact, ChatGPT's parent company is called OpenAI.
Open
It's
AI.
actually open source. It's actually open.
Wow.
They're actually open source, what you call LLM, large language model software that you can take, you can modify it, you can put on your server, and you can actually modify it and use it.
Wow. So it's like a template.
It's like a template. That is how
Wow.
open source software is. So I'm projecting that not too far from now, similar to how I can have a computer, and nowadays since it was around 2000 when digital came and everybody started to have phones and so on. I mean, it became normal. I'm thinking in a not too distant future, and it's happening now, but it will be commonplace for any organization, even ACIJ here, to be able to have our own open source AI model and develop it to automate almost everything that
Our
happens
cultural
here.
artifacts and assets that we have.
Yes. So we have right now we have one transcriber. And the duty of a transcriber is to transcribe the audio tapes that have been
And right.
digitized. AI can do that. And if we have right now,
AI
if
can do that based on the language and the coding that is put within that software to
yes,
translate.
and
So what we would need to do, if I'm understanding you, is to code something for our Jamaican
for us,
language.
exactly,
Yes.
because these things can learn. It's machine learning. These AI they learn, right? So we can train it, teach it, put the interface and so on, and we're having these things unique to our organization.
Right.
So digitize or disappear is very deliberate, very deliberate. There's one more stat that I'm gonna wrap up right now because I realize I'm over the time. So I don't have it.
Don't-
Oh yeah, this is it. So the question is, where is your data?
yes.
So everything that I've said so far culminate to this. Where is your data? And I touched on it before. If we're producing a little bit of data, putting our thing out there, where is it in the large pool of data that's been generated? Where is it in the large pool of other information? This thing says every minute there's 9.5 million searches on Google. Every single minute. And it breaks it down, translates it to what? 158,000 MASH searches per second, or roughly
Wow.
517 million searches per hour. So if our information is, if we're not utilizing the tools and digitalizing our processes, having a digital transformed environment, if we're not going this route and ensuring that we're represented with our data out there, we're in effect invisible. Because you ask AI something, AI is going to give you an answer. I didn't even touch on this thing called
So
hallucination.
before you talk about hallucination, so you're saying that with the data that is represented via Google search engine, if we do not search for our information, it doesn't come up in the top searches on Google, it disappears, it's not there?
No, what I'm actually saying is if our information isn't out there, AI is going to create information for us out there.
And when you say if it isn't out there, what you mean? If it's not on a website, if the
Yes.
public cannot access it. So our ACIJ Connect that is internal, if we don't get that public available to the public, it is going to disappear when nobody's going to find it when they search for it.
Yeah, well, in a way, yes, but we have other ways that we publish information. For example, we produce articles on our website monthly.
Right.
We have
But we
there's
have to put it out there for it to show up.
yes, we have to be deliberate and put it out there because
Okay.
what AI does something called scrape. It scrapes roams the internet and get data,
Yeah.
and it is that data that they manipulate
Okay.
and put in whatever form persons are making the request for.
All right, tell me about hallucination because I have a feeling I've experienced some computer generative hallucination.
Hallucination is a term that's used to describe something that AI does. For example, you ask AI hardly ever tells you that it doesn't know.
True.
And if if it doesn't know, and I'm saying it, and understand what I mean by it
Yeah, it's
collectively.
it.
If it doesn't know, it actually makes up something. What it thinks.
I knew it. I knew it, because it has to give you a response. And if you communicate, say, have a conversation, I don't know if that's something that we'd call, you would realize that it is going to generate something and it's not going to tell you that it doesn't know. So it indeed makes up an answer. So, for example, you hinted earlier at researching the research because the AI is generating so much information and it refuses to not give you something somewhere. If you don't research the research, you cannot find what is true. It becomes a game of truth and fact and just information. And you also mentioned about if we don't put the information out there. So, for example, for cultural agencies, ACIJ, for us not to disappear, for our well-researched memory bank that Olive Lewin put sweat, blood, and tears into, if we don't have this real, authentic information put out there, AI is going to write a different history. And we don't want to get back to that position. The purpose of the memory bank was for us to write our own history, and
yes.
put our own information. But if we are not putting it out, it's almost like a brand. If you're not branding yourself to say, this is me, this is us, then somebody's going to write a different story about you.
Definitely. And as I said before, what I was going to interject and put in, that history that AI generates, it becomes the history.
Wow.
It becomes the acceptable thing out there.
Yeah.
So you rightfully say it's important that we start getting with it, utilizing the tools, utilizing the AI tools, because one of the things that AI helps us to do is accelerate the rate at which we publish information. So we need to understand it and use it responsibly.
Okay.
All right, and that is it from me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Passley. I mean, I have a million questions going through
dear.
my brain, but we will go to the producer to see if we have any comments or questions online. We have one. All right. So one of the things I know that persons are concerned about, and I think it stems from fear, is how safe is this, which are the words am I going to use now? The digitalization. Because, I mean, for example, America, I like to think of as a credit society, and they do a lot of things online. and they do business and they do commerce online. But in Jamaica, e-commerce is such a tricky thing, especially when you're going to do business with international companies. We still do a lot of wire transfer, bank transfer. We don't do a lot of payment online. So a lot of people have that concern and they have the fear. How we mitigate or address something like that?
And these are genuine concerns. These are genuine concerns. But with the development of the technology, we have development of counter technologies to protect our data. So like cybersecurity is big now.
Yeah.
And it has to be big because, as you said, our information is out there. There are persons who are going to want to steal it. So there are tools, there are risks. With everything we have risk. I know persons who don't leave them candle on them personal lamp because them say one day light going gone. Right. So it's not to say we're abandoning everything that all of the checks and balances. But in order to move forward, these are risks that we have to take. It's just that. But as there are a lot of banks and a lot of government agencies that put out different tidbits as to how knowledgeable we should be when we're
Right.
dealing with our data, when we deal with online transactions. So you understand why we say we have to be more knowledgeable about what's happening. We can't be naive, or else we're gonna get burnt. But we have to step out and utilize the different tools that are out there.
Yeah. So recently we attended the 17th Charlestown conference and festival, and the first panel I think spoke about technology and cultural information.
Okay.
So I'm thinking about traditional communities, and a lot of traditional communities are very guarded concerning their information, their identity, and it's a matter of not secrecy, but just protection for their own information because of our enslaved past. We see how colonizers and even in the post-colonial area, your identity or your belongings can be taken away and misrepresented. What kind of implication does this technology have for us, especially as an agency that document and we want to preserve and then we want to disseminate, and if we intend to go into commercialization?
The the risk of being taken advantage of is even greater if we're not in on what's happening now.
Explain that. It's a
And it's what we touched on a while ago. If ACIJ doesn't do the research and put out there what is coming, there's an agency doing an AI search what is coming out. AI is going to determine what is coming out for us
And hallucinate.
and hallucinate.
Yes.
If Charlestown doesn't put what our culture is and what we're about and what is the maroon information, if we don't put that out there, something else is going to be generated and another truth, a different truth will be determined out there. So the risk of being marginalized and taken advantage of is even greater if we don't get on board with what is
Because you're going
happening
to
now.
be misrepresented.
You're going to be misrepresented. You're going to disappear in the grand scheme of things. And then if I understand you, and then if I answer your question.
You did answer the question, but I'm just thinking that a maroon person somewhere is going to, it's think that I'm losing my unique status.
Your uniqueness.
Yeah, your uniqueness, and having it out there might make us common and too easily accessible.
I'll share
Too
something.
easily accessible at one point, and then at the same time, who makes income from this? Who benefits from it the most is what I should say.
Well, the aspect of income is something that I'm not so. I feel like the persons the originators of the info should benefit.
Okay.
So but also the agency or institution that goes out and mines and put together the information, they should benefit as well and secure the information.
And I'm not so fast. Give me an example.
So I'm gonna give you an example. As I said before, researchers actually come to the ACIJ and they purchase rights to certain content that we have, content that was mined, garnered from different research, different persons. We are the ones ensuring that the things are stored properly, put together properly, ensuring that something is wrong with that hard drive, to change that hard drive in order to preserve the data.
Right.
Persons are going to, so somebody wants to do a
A
documentary about
documentary, a movie or some.
a certain thing. They can't just, they have to have the rights to it. They have to get the rights to do it. They have to pay for the rights because they're making millions of it.
Yeah.
Right? So our information our we can go back and change our heritage. We can go back and change our history.
Yeah.
It's very unique. It's very important and valuable. So definitely we have to charge for it. So persons can't just come to us and say, okay, give me such and such. And we say, okay, here.
So I guess my question is though, how does the community benefit from it? That we got that information from. Because I
You're
think,
putting me on a spot.
well, I guess maybe it's not a question for you to answer, but I'm just putting myself in the position of the community.
I understand, yeah.
Right? Because it's their information, it's about them. And at the same time, we have to maintain that confidence between we are the researchers and we're the ones going there. So, yes, we can't just make it available for everybody, but how do they benefit from it? Is it a case where, or what I
think
kind of expected you to say, not answering my own question, is the need of the community themselves to digitize their own history,
That's
to
what I realized that you were
digitalize their
asking.
processes as well, because we know that Charlestown have their own website with their information, and then to be digitally transformed. Though all of their activities and rituals and practices cannot be that way, but it would not be duplicating what we're doing, but standardizing it so we all exist in this culture, a digital transformation.
So that's why I say knowledge is important. They
Yeah.
have to be knowledgeable. I mean, you're perfectly right. I'll not add to it. But the different institutions, cultural organizations have to, grab the bull by the horn and get on with, getting their things digitized and marketed. But the other thing too, I just said it, let me slow down. They have to find a way to market
Yeah.
their thing,
Which
without
is going
giving away.
into that digital space again, putting something out.
Yes.
Okay.
So I know you just mentioned Charleston. I know Charleston, in their annual festival, they have persons can come and they have bookings,
Yes.
lodgings. They
Yes.
have a film screening. So they're doing it.
Right. And they have what do you call that? A webinar, not a webinar, conference.
A conference,
And
yes.
they have persons present via Zoom, or video conferencing is the word I want to use. The other thing I would want to talk about is people are always concerned when we talk about AI, fear about employment and machine taking over roles and jobs that they could do.
It's inevitable that jobs will be lost. I heard somebody recently, I know I shared it with you before. I think it was the Sam Altman, that's the head of OpenAI,
Yeah.
who created ChatGPT. He said that if we were still, if we didn't evolve, we'd still have persons lighting lamps on the street side.
Yes.
Because before I heard that statement, I didn't know that before, when they had street lights, there were literal
Yes,
lamps.
guys with ladders that would go up and let the sun go down and light them. That was before electricity.
Before electricity. So it's inevitable that jobs have to change. And we still have linesmen climbing poles, not true?
Yes.
I mean, jobs have to evolve.
Yeah.
The challenge now, and where I get back to education. Now, when I say education, I'm not talking about
I know,
primary
not
school,
formal
high school.
education, knowledge, information.
Yes. Because the fourth industrial revolution is a knowledge-based revolution.
Yes.
You understand? It's knowledge-based. It's important that we get knowledgeable, because let me use an example, for example, of digitalization. A lot of farms we are a division of the Institute of Jamaica. On a daily basis, we have a bureau that
Yes.
has to transport physical documents to
Like many government organizations. We
government
maintain
organizations. If we no longer have a need for a bureau to physically take the thing, the bureau can be doing something else,
that. Yes.
right? The bureau can be the one to, by upskilling
The bearer
The bearer
can do it digitally
can be doing it digitally because would need somebody to manage,
and to
to man
monitor.
and to monitor.
Yeah.
So that is a job that will be created, right? So we're upskilling the person who usually do a particular thing,
Upskilling the post and still
upskilling the
call the
post.
bearer.
So it's
Never
not.
thought of that before.
So jobs
Evolve.
have to evolve. We have to evolve. So it's inevitable. So the same way how jobs have to go, other jobs have to be created.
Yes. So we are not leaving anybody behind.
Nobody behind.
Okay. Do we have anything online? One, go ahead. All right, Mr. Pastor, it was I mean, we probably need to have a part two to this because there are so many areas to talk about with this revolution. And you spoke about manage change and a playbook for it. Many times in Jamaica, the one place that we look to for change is the government. And so it's whose responsibility is it for these things to happen? I mean, you go to school and you learn, and persons like you will take initiative. But how many corporations and businesses know that they need to do this and know how to do it? Is another
It's
thing because you also have a mature workforce that feels like nothing should be changed. What is working works, so if it's not broke, don't fix it. How do we address that?
the primary mover definitely has to be the government because and but secondary is private sector because the government can determine can the government determines how our curriculum looks, how primary curriculum looks, what we look at in basic school, high school, and so on. So the government is key in this, but private sector is also key. So it's
Okay.
both.
Okay. So it's a partnership. I
Definitely.
have a question here from Miss Williams, and she's asking, could cultural agencies in Jamaica, like ACIJ, for example, feasibly develop a shared AI platform that provides the public with credible information on Jamaica's history, culture, and heritage?
Definitely.
And go ahead.
I mentioned two aspects before. They're actually what you called. There are platforms online, and I mentioned one before in N8. I don't know
Yes.
why they chose to use a strange name, but you can actually go on it and you can actually develop your own AI agents on that platform.
But the question I guess
But
people are asking, are these platforms safe? When you develop using their platform, who does the information belong to? Who controls it?
that's a very good question. Who does it belong to? And I'm going to touch the other aspect. And I mentioned this already. There are open source AI systems that you can download, you can configure on your own server
Oh,
in-house in ACIJ. We can have our own server having the AI system running to manage our data. So similar to how ACIJ Connect is an intranet, it's just restricted within ACIJ. We
okay.
can have our own AI agent. We can have our own LLM within ACIJ.
Okay.
And they're all unreliable internet technology, like VPN. And I know VPN is very popular nowadays, where you can actually connect different cultural agency over the internet without it being accessible by the public internet. So,
Okay.
so I can connect, for example, we can be connected to our head office at E Street via the public internet, but via VPN, which is a public channel
Oh,
on
so
the
this is
internet.
this is really improving internal processes then. So this is having the digitalization within the institution.
I'm just addressing the question
Yeah.
that they asked because she did mention a network
Yes.
of different agencies. Now, the technology, the internet technology is already there that we can network. Campers are networking using the public internet, but their information is private.
And I like that you're stressing that we don't have to start from scratch.
Definitely not.
Exactly. There's another question that says, how can AI platforms be used to promote the reach and access to Jamaica's cultural resources and assets?
Well, there are so many. I know there's a thing called like chatbots, for example. If ACIJ, for example, had a chatbot on our website,
Wow.
We feed it our information and purses whenever they ask questions. So a chatbot is not me writing,
It's not somebody behind there
not a
waiting for a
person.
command to come in and answer.
So you have your info, you have a database of info there. You feed the chatbots. So when persons ask, the AI system will interpret what the person wants
Yeah.
and answer according to the information
Okay.
that we provide it.
Okay. So is that like automating frequently asked
It's
questions?
auto, it's not frequently asked questions. It's different from frequently asked questions. Frequently asked questions is when I write the question and the
And
answer.
the answer is there. So this is generating a
It
response
is
based on
generating
what we have in.
definitely,
Wow.
and it is reliable because we're the ones feeding the information to it.
I think my final question, I don't see any more questions online, but what would be some of the reasons for people to be so fearful of working with this generative AI?
I mean, there are many reasons for fear. One is that it's new, and whenever something is new, usually have a level of skepticism.
But it's been
The
new for the last how many years now?
For a long time.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
been.
generative AI has been pretty recent. Definitely less than 10 years. But the other thing is that what you mentioned before, persons do, we have, as much as we're wanting to use the technology to do good things, there are persons who are using technology to do malicious things, right? So the fear, and persons have been burnt. I've gotten emails before. I mean, we've all gotten emails.
Yeah.
Even before I learned how to use internet, I was getting letters, physical letters
Yeah.
from overseas. I win lotto,
Yes. Yes.
right? And I was send money.
And emails of your friends in distress. And one of the more popular ones recently is somebody hacking your phone and then sending a message to everybody on your mailing list asking
So
for
please send
money. And
money. I'm in
yeah,
dire streets.
but that should be a red flag the minute that it's always money, right?
So there are many reasons to be fearful. But as I
Thought
said,
you'd have mentioned deep fake. Is that a part of it?
the deepfake is a big part of it because the
Okay.
technology is becoming so good now that
They
a
should
lot
call
of
it deeper fake.
deeper fake. I mean, there are technology that's out there now, even on the internet, that you can go and you can generate voices of different
Yes.
persons. You can put a picture of the person, and it generates the person talking. That technology is out there. But two things I'll say to that: one, we can't push the genie back into the bottle. It's out there.
Yeah. But isn't there also technology or software that should help you to identify if it's
There is
fake?
software. As a matter of
Because
fact,
that's what is not talked about a
there
lot.
if of all the generated data, they're actually digital fingerprints. I'll call them fingerprints
Yeah.
that is hidden within the info. So whether it's text, whether it's image, whether it's video, because at the end of the day, each agency, whether DALI or Leonardo AI or Veo or whatever they are, they actually put signatures in there so they can identify their thing.
Okay.
And of course there's technology that I can look and say, "Oh, that's fake,
Okay.
right?" That is why I stress information. We have to get ourselves knowledgeable.
Okay. And it's not expensive to digitalize, is it?
No, well, for some, by and large, no. Some of the equipment it depends on the type of material that you have.
Okay.
But most of what is out there now, I mean, we have it rough because we have some, as I say, we have media that's spanning from the 70s. When I say we, I mean ACIJ.
Right, like cultural institution that's
Yes.
documented.
So, but for a company out there, it's not hard because they already have the most of what they have is physical forms,
Okay.
physical forms and things that can easily be digitize and digitalize the
Right.
processes. So it's not super expensive. As I say, I developed ACIJ Connect without a dollar extra, right?
Okay.
And without a new computer, without a very old computer. So knowledge is key.
Okay. So this is definitely a way forward. Well, thank you, Mr. Passley. It was definitely informative.
Thank you
And I'm
for
sure
first time.
our viewers would have appreciated having Mr. Passley come from behind the cameras, from behind the technical desk to share with us the way forward and the future. Coming up for ACIJ, our events in September, we'll be having our annual Olive Lewin lecture, and that will be shared with our mailing list as well as on our social media pages. Do follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, and do share our YouTube channel with your friends so you can keep up to date with us. Until the next first Thursday in, what's that? August. You will see us again. Have a good one, everyone.